Hello, everyone, and thank you all for joining us. Today's webinar is You Are on Safer Ground with Waterborne Epoxy Flooring and is presented by Evonik. Your presenter today is Shiying Zhang. Dr. Shiying Zhang is a research director at Crosslinker's business line and specialty additives division in Evonik Corporation based in Allentown, Pennsylvania. My name is Carly Sheeter with UL, and I'll be moderating today's webinar. Please send us your questions by typing them in the question box located on your screen. Our panelists will answer them at the end of the presentation. We are recording today's event, and we will send you a link by email when it has been posted to ulprospector.com. Now I'd like to turn the presentation over to Shiying. Would you like to begin?
Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar. Today I'm going to talk about flooring. So flooring is so ubiquitous. We stand on some type of floor every day. You can imagine it's very important and the market's very large. So during this pandemic, we start to pay attention more to our surroundings, including the floor we stand. We are more conscientious now, like trying to keep everything clean and sanitized. So we want a type of floor that's actually it's easy to clean and seamless, so it does not harbor any germs and dirt. So the floor coatings can help to fulfill these needs, whether it's on a concrete floor or on a wood floor. The floor coating not only protect the floor from stains and damages and give floor longer surface life, but also beautify a floor and provide a very pleasant working environment. So if we look at the global flooring market, the market size is very large and it's still growing. So 2018, the market size of our global floor coatings is about $2.5 billion, and it's expected to grow at annual rate over 6.5%. So forecast by 2025, the market reach almost $4 billion. This is due to the increasing the rising construction industry globally, and also the increased use of coatings on all type of floorings. So we break down into three segments: commercial, industrial, and residential. So if we look at each segment, there are different areas. So for example, in industrial flooring, we commonly look at the manufacturing, chemical and pharma industry, and especially like the food and beverage industry. So for commercial area, warehouse, distribution center, actually it's growing like at much higher rate than other area due to the explosive growth of e-commerce. And for like a residential application, we look at both indoor and outdoor. For indoor, it be kitchens and bathrooms, and outdoor, something like a patio or swimming pool, like, area walkways. So each of these market segments require different type of floor coatings. For example, in the industrial segment, obviously you want a floor coating that will have much higher mechanical and chemical resistance that can withstand heavier traffic. And for commercial area, in the retail area, we want a floor coating that has much better like appearance, so give you a better look. So what type of maybe person forward? So we'll see the pie chart. What type of materials are used in floor coating? So if we look at the breakdown pie chart here, you can see that there are mainly two types of materials: polyurethane and epoxy. And polyurethane is about over 30%, and epoxy takes a predominantly market share, over 40% of the market share. So why epoxy is so important? That's because epoxy typically provide very high performance coatings and also very cost effective. It provides very strong mechanical property and have good abrasion and chemical resistance, and also like give a very good appearance. So it's perfect for floor coatings. And one thing I also want to point out here, that in the residential area, over almost like a 7% growth annually. So the floor coating market, it's large and growing. What do our customer and end user look for in the new floor coating materials? What are the market trends and drivers in floor coating, especially for epoxy floor coating? So here I list the three key market trends and drivers. So first, it's enhance our product performance. Customer want a better product that has better UV resistance, that it will give you a long, stable color through shelf surface life, good chemical resistance that can withstand spill and cleaning, and pigment acceptance. So you want a floor that's decorative, can be easily formulated. And productivity, it's always important for a faster return to our service. So productivity improvement requires a material, floor coating material that's fast cure that can be recoat within a few hours, for example, less than 4 hours, and cure at low temperature down to 10 Celsius and under high humidity. So that will give the customer a colder climate, longer application windows, and surface tolerance. It's something like sometimes we forget how important it is. So a product that's more surface tolerant will require less prep time. So that will shorten the application time. So, and finally, last not the least, customer always look for eco and user-friendly products, like low to zero VOC for improved worker safety, and low emission to improve indoor air quality and sustainability. It's good for the environment. So how does the Waterborne epoxy fit into this market trends and driver? Why we would consider Waterborne epoxy? So Waterborne epoxy compared to the solvent-free system, it offers a very competitive advantages. Here I'm just listing a few advantages of the Waterborne epoxy, and in this webinar, I will be focusing mainly on the concrete flooring. So Waterborne epoxy provides the best-in-class adhesion to concrete substrate, and it can be more cost-effective than solvent-free system. Obviously, since it's waterborne, zero to low VOC, it has environmental advantages. So overall, waterborne epoxy commands about 20% of the total epoxy market. So a few examples I'll show here, like where waterborne epoxy can be used on factory floors. So waterborne epoxy can be easily applied and has excellent mechanical properties. So it can dry the heavy-duty equipment over. In the electronic and retail areas, waterborne epoxy often used because it has very high aesthetic, gives good appearance. And for the parking deck area, waterborne epoxy often used because of its superior overcoatability and high durability. So why do we consider Evonik's waterborne epoxy? What's special about Evonik's waterborne epoxy? So at Evonik, in our business, cross-linkers business, so we have very unique amine design and synthesis capabilities. We can design molecule, the product down to molecule level, and we understand the structure property relationship. We know how to design the right material for the right application. And of course, we have very strong waterborne expertise. We always deliver technology to meet our market needs consistently. So with the market needs, like, I'm emphasizing here from previous slide, customer wants better and faster and safer product. So the capability and market needs intersect that lies in the Evonik waterborne epoxy system. So on this slide, I'm showing you an overview of Evonik waterborne epoxy product. So first, let's just dissect typical flooring, different layers. So here I show like the bottom layer, it's the concrete substrate, and then you have all these different layers and different thickness. So want to clarify here that this does not mean that each layer it's required. So it depends on your application and needs. You can have a different combination. So on top of the concrete substrate, typically it's a primer layer, and next layer, it's the pink layer shown here. It's a thicker layer like epoxy modified cementitious layer. And you can also make a self-leveling floor that's also a thick layer, but not as thick as the cementitious layer. And the top coat, the field top coat, usually it's like a concrete paint with some kind of color. And the most top layer, it's the transparent sealers. So not always that you need a primer layer. For example, if you have epoxy cementitious or self-leveling floor, these layers, thicker layers, can actually be applied directly on concrete. You don't need a primer layer. But if you have a thinner, like, either the field top coat or transparent sealer on top, then you definitely need a primer layer. So there are like several different combinations. Customer can choose and pick what they need. And under each layers, we offer several different products, and each layer obviously will have a different requirement. For example, for the primer layer, you want the layer to have a very good adhesion to concrete substrate and no carbonation. No carbonation will ensure good intercoat adhesion to the layer on top. And then if we look at the very top layer, like a transparent sealer, you want something that has high transparency and good UV resistance, also like a stain resistance. So now customer might ask, end user might ask, what? So each layer, you have several different products. How do you decide which layer to choose? So on next slide, I'm going to show you a simple product positioning guide. So on this guide chart, you see there are two axes. So we have the horizontal axis shows the cure speed. From the left, slower cure, to the right, fast cure. And then on the vertical axis, it's UV resistance. On the top, it's excellent UV durability, and then the bottom, it's not as good. So each of our products fall into these four quadrants, and depends on your need. Then you can pick the right layers, the right material for your application. So if we look at on the right side of the chart, you see there are four products kind of lined up. So this shows that these four products basically have similar cure speed. So let's Anquamine 728 with LER, and then 735 LER, and then we got 701 LER and 287 LER. So these four products are for very different applications, but they have very similar cure speed. But then if on different, like a vertical scale, so it means these products have very different EVR resistance. So in this webinar in particular, I'm going to talk about two of the products. So highlight here is Anquamine 728 and Anquamine 735. So both products are designed to meet the market trends I showed earlier. It's a faster product, faster, better, and safer product. And each product is designed for different applications. So I'm going to dive in these two products in the next few slides. So first, I'm going to talk about Anquamine 728. Anquamine 728 is a new product we launched 2 years ago that provide very fast return to service and give excellent aesthetics. So exactly what's Anquamine 728? So Anquamine 728, because it's a fast cure speed, it allows for installation of high quality floor in just 1 day. So if we look at the basic property of Anquamine 728, it's aqueous solution at about 55% solid, medium viscosity somewhere around 8,000, and low color. So it can be used with both liquid epoxy resin and solid resin dispersion. We have our own particular resin dispersion anchored AR555. So the use level with LER is about 130, and with solid resin dispersion, it's about 35. So with our liquid resin LER, Anquamine 728 can emulsify LER easily without the need to add additional emulsifier. So let's look at how the product can be used. So I showed you earlier that there are different layers for a floor system. So here I'm just showing a very simple two-layer system. So you have the concrete substrate, and then you have the primer, and then the top coat. So for 1-day flooring, you want the primer to dry very fast, and not just dry fast, and actually cure fast. So the top coat can be applied by the same crew and during the same shift. Then we can let the top coat just dry overnight. So to have the 1-day flooring, the primer needs to be less than 8 hours with all the prep. So ideally, we would want a primer to dry less than 4 hours under even like cold temperature, like a 10 Celsius. So at the bottom of the table shows like Anquamine 728 can be used with LER and with AR555 solid resin dispersion. If we use resin dispersion as the primer, so we can apply 2 coating in 1 day, then that gives you the 1-day flooring. And then the top, if you use LER, then it dries slower, so we can only apply one coat per day. So both LER and AR555 coatings provide excellent appearance and also give like a good pigment acceptance and good adhesion to concrete substrate and intercoat adhesion. I keep emphasizing good, excellent pigment acceptance. It's important for decorative flooring. You would like to decorate the floor to pigment to your desired pigment acceptance of a system. It's very important. And both systems are true zero VOC. So why am I emphasizing Anquamine AR555? So the primer we use with Anquamine AR555. So what's Anquamine AR555? It's a solid resin dispersion like the conventional resin dispersion out in the market. Actually, it has a bimodal molecular weight distribution. We have a low molecular weight portion and a high molecular weight portion. Low molecular weight portion acts just like a liquid epoxy resin that will give you a very good adhesion to concrete substrate, even wet concrete. And a solid portion will give you fast dry speed, just like the solid resin dispersion. So the combination of this low molecular weight and high molecular weight peak give you the unique performance of excellent adhesion and fast dry, and also true zero VOC, because the low molecular weight portion also provide a self-coalescent, so that eliminate the need to have a coalescing solver. So what's so unique about Anquamine 728 with AR555? So here I show you the concrete adhesion and show you the dry speed and adhesion of Anquamine 728 with AR555 in comparison with just the conventional solid resin dispersion. You can see that we test under a few different conditions on dry concrete or damp concrete. So dry concrete means just a concrete that's not being exposed to exposed to water. So typically it has about 1 to 2% moisture content. Damp concrete is a concrete block we purposely soak in water overnight before taking out for application. So under different humidity conditions, 60% RH or to up to 85% RH. So AR555 coatings shows that the coating dries within 4 hours, even with damp concrete. So it's anywhere between 2 hours to 4 hours at 10 degrees, and all these tests are run at 10 degrees Celsius. So if we compare with the conventional resin dispersion, you can see that under ambient temperatures, conventional solid resin dispersion actually dries very fast. But once you get up to go to the damp concrete or higher humidity, the coating dries much slower. And the worst that these coatings does not have a very good adhesion to concrete substrate, unlike AR555 coatings, all show excellent adhesion to concrete substrate with the adhesion strength over 6 megapascal. So it's over 900 psi. So let's focus on the primer. So what about like for one-day flooring, you need a primer and a top coat. So what about the performance of the top coat? So the top coat, the requirement definitely would be fast cure. So then that ensure you to have a floor within 24 hours. And will need to have a good adhesion to the primer. So the fast drying speed I'm showing you here, that the coating, like if we look at the thin film set time, it dries within 5 hours, even under 10 degrees Celsius. And then if we look at the walk-on time, so under 10 degrees Celsius, the coating is ready to be walked on by 12 hours. And what about the adhesion, the intercoat adhesion? How well does it adhere to the primer? So we show here that the adhesion, intercoat adhesion is consistently very good, like outstanding, so over 900 psi. So what about other requirements? So we talk about you need fast drying speed. So what are the other requirements for the top coat? So since the top coat, it's something like you look at, you add every day and you stand on it every day. So you would like to have a good looking for. So why UV resistance is important. UV resistance will give you stable UV floor resistant flooring, will give you a consistent anti-yellowing, so the floor will stay the same color over the service life of the floor. So we compare Uncommon 728, the top coat, with a known Waterbome system that has excellent UV resistance, and compare that with a low emission solvent-free system. You can see from this the UV test, Anquamine 728 perform better than our benchmark Waterbome epoxy, and both are much better than our solvent-free system. So on the right of the chart, it shows I'm showing the color stability of the formulation. Why it's that important? So let's show our good pigment compatibility. So the good pigment compatibility will give you color stability through pot life. So we run a comparison with a typical Waterbome paint. You can see that Anquamine 728 show pretty consistent color throughout 90 minutes of pot life. The typical Waterbome epoxy paint, you can see there's variation of color through the pot life. So you don't want the floor like you start at light blue, once you get to the other end of the room, it's changed like a different shade of blue. So the color stability through pot life is very important. So for a floor, we stand on and we spill stuff on. So typically, you want a floor that also have good resistance to the chemicals for industrial flooring, and good like a stain resistance if for commercial or residential flooring. So we run the test of the white top coat with typical household drinks and some food. You can see that the white top coat, and the test was run these are for spot test and exposed 24 hours. After 24 hours, we wipe clean with water. You can see that the Anquamine 728 white top coat does not show much stain with most of the household drinks. Only like a mustard, it's a very tough one. So mustard, we do see a slight like a stain. And for chemical resistance, we check a few like a typical chemicals used in the lab. So for aqueous chemicals, like either acylic or basic solution, we don't see any effect. And for solvents, you see ethanol or show like a minor swelling, and then with MEK, definitely the coating start to swell. So we compare this with other benchmark Waterbome system and also solvent-free system. So Anquamine 728 perform much better in terms of the chemical resistance in the solvents, especially MEK. So since like previous, I also talked about Anquamine, like Waterbome epoxy can be used in garage floors in residential area or in commercial, like a parking garage. So how does resist to hot tire pickup? So this is one request like many of our customers ask. So we run our test. This is an in-house test. So we have a tire tread put under 45 psi at 50 degrees Celsius for 2 hours. So that's the test condition we ran. And we evaluate the coating after at least 2 hours hot exposure to the tire tread. Under pressure, we evaluate the stain resistance, imprints, and delamination. And then we have rating from 1 to 0 to 5. And we also compare the coating with a commercially available white system we buy from the big box stores. So the test also run like a different cure schedule. So after 2 days, we run the test, and 3 days and 7 days. So you can see the commercial product performs pretty well. Also, all products perform very well in terms of stain resistance and delamination. So our Anquamine 728 and commercial product both get a 5 rating even after 2 days. But then with 2 days, Anquamine 728 performs better than the commercial product. So 2 days, the imprint commercial product, you can see on the picture, definitely shows the imprint. So overall, this slide shows that Anquamine 728 can be used for garage floor, and it has very good performance. So in summary, Anquamine 728 It's designed to deliver a high performance one-day flooring. So this just to recap what I just present. So the primer, it's Anquamine 728 with a resin dispersion AR555, and then the top coat we actually use just typical dilute resin to cut down the cost. So we look at the floor system under different conditions from 20 ambient temperature to 10 C and on dry and damp concrete. So under ambient temperature at 23 C and dry concrete, the floor is ready to walk on by 9 hours. And even under the most stringent condition of 10 C and 60% humidity on damp concrete, the floor is ready for service by 16 hours. So in summary, Anquamine 728 deliver it's a better, faster, and safer product for especially for one-day flooring. So let's conclude that Anquamine 728 portion of the webinar. Next will be a few slides. I'm going to present a different product, complete different product. So Anquamine 735. So Anquamine 735 is designed for a high build self-leveling floor. So what Anquamine 735, what does it do? So it's designed for a high build up to 1 to 3 millimeters. So that's about up to an 1/8 inch of a self-leveling floor, and this typically apply in a high traffic area. So the Anquamine 735 self-leveling floor has very good performance and good appearance. So it also has good chemical resistance and air carbonation resistance. Since I mentioned earlier that self-leveling floor can be applied directly to concrete, you don't really need a primer. So it has excellent adhesion to dry and damp concrete. And also, it has excellent pigment compatibility. I showed earlier that pigment compatibility is important for decorative flooring. So you can have different pigments, different shade of color you want. And very importantly, the system is plasticizer free. So that means it has a higher heat diffraction temperature, allow for steam cleaning. And in terms of cost, it has better cost in use versus solvent or free system that I will talk about in next slide. And in terms of cure speed, it definitely develop property very fast, and that ensure fast to return to service and zero VOC and environmental friendly. So what's 735 typical property? So 735 it's a solution, but this one has a higher viscosity, about up to 30,000 and 55% solid, and it's designed to work with liquid epoxy resin. It has a very good emulsifying capability, so you don't really need additional emulsifier to use with liquid epoxy resin. So let's look at the property in detail, like I talk about, a better cost in use and fast return to service. So typical self-leveling floor are solvent-free system. So if you can, for solvent-free system, an excess amount of binder actually it's often required to offer the self-leveling, the flow property. So you need more binder so it will flow better. So that result leads to a higher material cost. With the Anquamine 735 self-leveling system, actually the flow characteristic can be adjusted by addition of water, so you don't need higher binder, and it can be formulated to offer optimum protection with a reduced amount of binder. So overall, this result in at least 10% of the overall cost. So we can look at the chart on the left-hand side, cost in use advantage. You save about 10% of the cost with both binder and filler, and the binder content definitely it's much lower than traditional solvent-free system. And the system, Anquamine 735 self-leveling floor, provides fast return to service. So we check the walk-on hardness of the floor. So under 2 different conditions. So at 10 Celsius, at 16 hours, it's a little soft, but by 24 hours, it's able to allow light traffic, so ready to walk on. And with if the The test is run under ambient temperature. The floor is ready to service by 16 hours. So one additional benefit of Anquamine 735 self-leveling floor it has a high water vapor transmission. So basically the floor is breathable. So these floor thicker coatings like up to an eighth inch. So we can compare the water vapor transmission with the solvent-free cycloaliphatic system. You can see from the chart on the left-hand side that Anquamine 735 self-leveler has 30 times higher water vapor transmission rate than solvent-free system. Why this is important? Why the breathability of a thick BO4 is important? You can see on the right hand side of the diagram that the concrete substrates are very porous and often moisture just permeates through the floor and can get under the coating. So if a floor is not permeable and then you have a collection of water and salt accumulate underneath the coating or the floor, so it will cause a blister and then eventually cause the failure. So with the high water vapor transmission floor, there's no osmotic blistering, which give you a floor that wouldn't fail because of this. So the water vapor, the breathability of a floor, it's a unique property of Anquamine 735 self-leveling floor. So in terms of for a floor, obviously, since these are applied in a high traffic area, the mechanical and impact resistance is also important. So again, here on this table, we benchmark against the typical solvent-free cycloaliphatic floor. You can see that the 735 self-leveler has a very good mechanical, compressive strength comparable to the solvent-free system. One thing I want to and it also has an excellent impact resistance, much better than solvent-free system, and good abrasion resistance, comparable to the solvent-free. One thing I want to point out here is the adhesion to concrete substrate, especially to the damp concrete. The solvent-free system doesn't adhere very well, but Anquamine 735 system consistently performs better. Also, for a floor, we always care about the chemical resistance and the stain resistance, so to protect against the spills. So we run the same test to the previous slide I showed. So the typical household chemical, drink, and food. So 735 self-leveler has show a slight stain with mustard and ketchup. In terms of chemical resistance, it performs very well because these are highly filled systems. So Anquamine 735 actually it doesn't give you a glossy floor. It's a matte floor. So what if you want a different a finish? So and this self-leveler can be easily modified to give you different pigment and colors, and also you can broadcast sand to make a non-slip and also give you a different texture. So if you want even better chemical resistance and high gloss, because itself it's a matte finish, you can apply different top coats. We have recommendation for top coats like 1K or 2K or polyurethanes or polyurethane acrylic hybrid material. You can use a transparent sealer, epoxy, Waterbome epoxy sealer. So in summary, Anquamine 735 self-leveling floor is designed to meet the market needs for a faster, better, and a safer product with high performance. So that concludes my webinar today, and I'll be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, and we can get started on questions. Your first question is, for Anquamine 728, what is the working time of the primer and top coat?
So for Anquamine 728, the primer, the working time is close to 2 hours, and both primer and top coat have working time somewhere between 90 minutes to 2 hours. Any other questions?
Yes, thank you. Our next question is, does the Anquamine 728 primer adhere to green concrete?
Yes, that's a very good question. So we do have a few quite a few customers were asking about that, and we run the test. So it does adhere well to green concrete. So the green concrete we refer to, it's a concrete cure 6 days after pour. That's the test we run. We didn't run like a fresh year, like a less than 6 days. So the 6-day concrete was what we test, and it has good adhesion. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, our next question is, are both Aquamine 728 and AR55 freeze thaw stable? If no, what recommendations do you have to make freeze thaw stable?
Okay, so Anquamine 728 itself, it's an aqueous solution, so it is freeze thaw stable. So if just freeze it into ice cube, and once you thaw, it will return to the liquid state. AR555, the Anchorage, like a solid resin dispersion itself, it's not freeze thaw stable, but we have a recommendation. We can add some solvents to more typically like glycols to make it freeze thaw stable, and it does not. This addition of the freeze thaw additive does not impact the performance.
Thank you. Our next question is, can the Aquamine 728 primer formulation also be used as a top coat? Do you have any starting point formulation?
Another good question. Yes. So in the presentation, I only show that Anquamine 728 with liquid epoxy resin and show all the performance. And the primer, we show the clear coat with Anchorage AR555. But in the primer can also be used either as a transparent like a sealer for it dries very fast, or we also made the pigmented coating with AR555, and that can be used as a top coat. So we can pigment. You can make a white base and then tint to different colors. So yes. And we do have a starting point formulation for both with liquid epoxy resin and solid resin dispersion.
Thank you. The next question is, can you tint the white top coat of Aquamine 728 to a different color?
Yes. So the presentation, all the data show it's based on the white base coat just with TiO2. So you can tint it to different colors. So we made rainbow color just for the fun of it. So we can tint to different color, and it has good pigment compatibility with the typical Waterbome pigment paste.
Thank you. The next question is, are these WB curing agents reducible? If so, how low?
So both Anquamine 728 and 735 provide at 55% solid as delivered, but we can reduce down to 25%, and both can, at 25% level, both can still emulsify liquid epoxy resin, and at 25% solid, both are still stable.
Thank you. Our next question is, what defoamers or wetting agents work best with Anquamine 728 and 735? Are there any additives to avoid using with these systems, i.e. anything that could cause issues with inner coat adhesion?
So that's a good question. So both we have our starting point formulations for both Anquamine 728 and 735 systems. So customer or anyone who's interested, we can definitely provide those, and just the additive to avoid that will cause the intercoat adhesion. So it would be the some defoamer like the siloxane base. If you use too high level, then might cause issue with the intercoat adhesion. But we haven't found anything outstandingly bad yet. So I can provide a starting point formulation. Yes.
Yes, our next question is, for Aquamine 728, in one of the slides you showed the existing waterborne technology shows poor adhesion. Can you explain why?
So that show I show in one slide shows that some Uncommon 728 in combination with Anquamine AR555. So the reason for poor adhesion is that conventional solid resin dispersion only have one peak and without the coalescing solvent. So basically, it does not form a good film. It does not coalesce. So it therefore causing a poor adhesion with AR555 because the low molecular weight portion acts more like a liquid epoxy resin that give you a good adhesion to concrete.
Thank you. Our next question is, for Aquamine 728, what kind of chemistry or technology makes a curing agent fast cure? Anything you can discuss.
So this is a proprietary technology. So we have a fast cure amine building block. We incorporate this amine building block into the waterborne curing agent in combination with psychoaliphatic amines that give us that not only just the fast cure speed but also the excellent appearance. So I did present this in a paper in coating technology. Anybody interested, we can share. That's a white paper out.
Thank you. And our next question is, how thick do you apply the self-leveling floor of Aquamine 735?
So typically we can apply like somewhere around 1 to 3 millimeters. So that's close to like an eighth of inch. That's typically what's applied.
Thank you. Our next question is, for Anquamine 735 self-leveling system, is it a 2K or 3K system?
Oh, we do have both 2K and 3K system. So you can either make a 2K or 3K. So 3K will be like the filler will be as like a separate pack, or we can put like a filler, divide the filler into both A side and B side. So we have different starting point formulation for 2K and 3K systems.
Thank you. And this will be our last question. What is the typical PVC and self-leveling floor?
What we test about 40%. That's what we test. We have 40% of PVC.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone who attended today's webinar. Just as a reminder, we will send you a link to the recording of today's webinar so you can watch it anytime and share it with others at your company. We will also follow up to any questions we weren't able to get to today. Thank you again for attending and have a great day.